Ready or Not 2, Here I Come, is once again made by the same creative team that made the first movie, Radio Silence. After Grace survives the previous wedding night, she is now taken to an underground realm with her sister to play an even more devilish game. So the previous film was released in 2019 and it was rushed out to theaters and it was well received. I really did enjoy the film. I watched it a couple years later, post the initial wave of reactions from it, but I did enjoy it, and it's clear to see why Radio Silence was then given the opportunity to do two next movies, which was Scream 5 and Scream 6. But now we've circled back to their first film that they had made here with Ready or Not 2, which, by the way, is a pretty oddly worded title, but we won't press too much on that. So the cast is a lot bigger and it's a lot larger. There's a lot more well-known names in this. You obviously have Samara Weaving returning once again as Grace, but you now introduce her younger sister, who is played by Kathryn Newton. Along with that, you have people like Sarah Gellar coming into play. So the production of this film kind of was raised a lot from the previous film, and unfortunately for it, it does not hold up as well as the first film does. Ready or Not was a really good kind of standalone, single night sort of horror film that, quite honestly, didn't really need to have a sequel. I didn't really necessarily know how you could have made a sequel out of it, but it did, and the unfortunate part about it is that the script feels very rushed, even though the previous movie came out 7 years ago. This script and this kind of screenplay reads as if they were a rushed production from the first to the next movie, so any sort of complaints that you could have where it's like, well, they were kind of told to just get the movie out as is kind of null and void when you have a pretty substantial gap between the first and the second film. So unfortunately for this one, while I did find enjoyment out of it, I did think it fell short in a lot of ways. For starters, the exposition dumps between everybody is quite heavy, especially at the beginning of the movie. There's some really great one-shots and there's some great sequences throughout the film, but there are plenty of points throughout where the script kind of feels like it has to justify itself and it has to play catch up with the previous film. And while maybe for me it was a little bit annoying because I had rewatched the first movie only a week prior to seeing this, so I'd already known what had happened. So I can understand to an extent why they would want to refresh everybody's memory in it. But to do it about 3 different times in the very beginning of the film felt overdone. It felt like they could have gotten to this in a much better and easier way instead of just explaining it to everybody multiple times and showing flashbacks and stuff. It felt really repetitive and annoying. And the concept of the entire story being is that there's multiple families kind of coming together to fight for the higher throne in this cult that she happened to have been part of now because of the previous marriage. It just seemed like they were rewriting and making rules up as they go, contradicting themselves as they go. So as it kept going along and while there was fun to be had, I couldn't help but just sit here and go, wow, this film is just really not cohesive at all, which is a shame because they had a lot more time to kind of sit down and do this one. And if nothing else, at least there is great action set pieces. There's great kills in this film. The acting is actually really good in it, especially from Samara Weaving returning as Grace. She really, really pulls in a great performance. I think she's a great addition to the franchise, if you even want to call it that at this point. And I really like her teaming with Radio Silence. It seems like a great partnership. But unfortunately for the director's side of it, they kind of dropped the ball with what she had brought to the table. Kathryn Newton, however, as an addition to this film, as stated previously, was really good. I really liked their sister relationship throughout it. You could tell that they have some bad blood and they do have to work throughout the entire film through this trauma. And there were points where it did feel like it's a little repetitive. It felt like a little, kind of just kept going along and was like, you kind of made up 3 different times already, so why are we doing this again? That was one of the more frustrating aspects of these characters. Actually, of the villains that we have in this film, Sarah Michelle Gellar and Shawn as a pair of twins to represent this part of the family to get the throne. Actually, they had a lot of fun. It was really great to see how they were going about it and the weaponry that they were using. Really, everybody in this film, the people that were chasing down the sisters, were actually really fun to see. In the end, I think that Ready or Not 2 is not quite as good as the first movie. While there is a ton of fun to be had in this one, I was just kind of sitting here thinking that this could have been a lot better, and with a better screenplay, I think this could have been a lot better. Or personally, for me, as like I like to see a lot more of this in Hollywood nowadays, a lot more one-offs, a lot more of just like Sinners, for example. Talk about how like Sinners could be a franchise, and while I think that you could explore certain ideas of the world of Sinners, I find it to be a lot better if it's just a singular movie. And I think Ready or Not really was that for a long time. But now having the second movie, you can really tell that the limitations to the story were really stretched in this. And while it's not the worst movie of the year, it's definitely a lot better than most films you would see. It's a bit of a letdown for sure. I'm going to give Ready or Not 2 3 stars. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts down below. You could also go down to the socials, where we're going to be on TikTok, Twitter, and Letterboxd, where I'm continuing to do the MCU sort of rewatch on there, and any other films that I do end up watching, I'll post a review on there as well. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Keep those cinemas alive. Now we'll talk to you all next time.